Hi everyone, Rush Reviews here. The Nintendo DS released on November 21st of 2004 and sold 154 million units, which made it the second best-selling video game console of all time, right behind the PlayStation 2. The DS had an incredibly long life cycle. The original family of the DSs, which was the DS, DS Lite, DSi, and DSi XL, were Nintendo's primary handheld console for 7 years. Then the 3DS released in 2011. But the 3DS has backwards compatibility for all DS games, and the DS can't read 3DS games. So technically the DS, or at least all the games produced for the original DS's life cycle, still hasn't ended. Anyways, during the last two console generations, one of the most prominent games to release were FPS games, probably due to the technology and controls advancing. And back when the original DS was out, developers would port their games to basically any console that was out at the time. This is why you'll see lots of games and even movie tie-in games releasing on the GameCube, Wii, DS, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox, Xbox 360, GBA, PC, your grandma's heart monitor, etc., etc. The DS isn't a very powerful console, so it's very difficult to port an FPS game to the system, but that didn't stop the developers from trying. Today we kind of have the top 5 first-person shooter games on the DS. We're going to start off with a homebrew game. I recently got my R4 chip, which lets me load ROMs onto a cartridge. I'm using it to try DS homebrew games. One of the games I got working is Team Fortress DS, which is a full port of the Quake version of Team Fortress to the DS. I played a lot of the original Team Fortress, the one on Steam, which is a gold source port of the Quake version, and got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and the fact that it was put on the DS is insane. Props to the developers of the game for porting it. Right now I'm only using PC footage of the game because I've done a capture card for my DS, the only footage I can find of it is on YouTube. You're going to see a lot of the DS Call of Duty games in this list, and for good reason. NFace did a great job porting these games and making them feel like a real Call of Duty game for the most part. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is thought of as one of the greatest FPS games of all time. Most people don't remember the DS version of the game. Modern Warfare DS was the first Call of Duty game to release on the DS, and it noticeably has less content compared to the other games. But it makes up for it with a campaign that does an alright job mirroring the real game and a somewhat generic multiplayer. But the reason it's on this list is because of single card play. If you don't know what single card play is, the DS is something called download play. It was the DS's local multiplayer, and if the developers weren't greedy, they might give you a single card download play, where if you're playing in the same room with your friends, the DS sends the game to them via Bluetooth, so you can do multiplayer when only one person has the cartridge. It's pretty revolutionary and great for road trips with friends who don't have lots of DS games. Anyways, Modern Warfare on the DS was the only Call of Duty game on the DS with single card play. It makes the multiplayer much better. The multiplayer only gives you 2 maps and 2 guns, but that's still better than nothing. The Black Ops series is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. And I even got some enjoyment out of Black Ops on the DS, the first Call of Duty game on the DS that lets you use the A, B, X, Y buttons to turn around instead of the touchscreen. It's a step up from the hand-cramming touchscreen, but it's really sensitive, and half the time the auto-aim will aim at a dead guy instead of people who are shooting at you. The game's campaign is amazing when thinking about the limitations of the DS hardware. It follows the same storyline as Black Ops 1 except with some generic soldiers and no real bad guy. One of the things I noticed about the COD campaigns on the DS is that they start out by just kind of spurting the story at you and never mentioning it again. Black Ops DS includes all the missions from the original Black Ops, like where you're in Cuba, but not to kill Castro, you're supposed to free some soldiers. Then the part where you're in a prison, except it's a Cuban prison, not in Russia. Then the parts in Vietnam. There's a part where you assassinate an agent and get totally screwed over by your buddies. Lots of stuff happens in the campaign, and I had a lot of fun playing it. The multiplayer is a big step up compared to Modern Warfare on the DS with classes, perks, and lots of maps, but I only have 2 cartridges of Black Ops. I bought a second cartridge because I really wanted to play the game with my friends, but these maps seem like they need 8 to 12 people playing on them. One of the things I forgot to mention is the DS used to have online multiplayer called Nintendo WFC, which is Nintendo Wi-Fi connection if you couldn't tell. These servers were shut down in 2013, so you can't do online multiplayer anymore in most games. This game was made when most FPS games didn't have bots, so unless you have lots of friends who are very interested in playing the worst version of Black Ops, you're not going to get a lot out of the multiplayer. Metroid Prime Hunters was one of the only FPS games that was built for the DS. It was made by Nintendo and plays just like all the other Metroid games. It looks alright for the DS. I haven't got very far in the campaign, but so far it's really good. It also has both touchscreen and ABXY controls, which I think work much better than Black Ops. I mostly play the multiplayer, so that'll be my main focus. The single card multiplayer is I think where the game really shines. Lots of different characters you can play as that all have different abilities. And single card play gives you a huge amount of maps and modes to play on. The gameplay is kind of like Quake or Half-Life Deathmatch, and it's very fast paced and requires good aim and reaction time. If you wanted to get a DS FPS game just for single card play, this would probably be the way to go. GoldenEye was one of the most popular FPS games of all time and really pushed the genre forward. Even if the controls are garbage for today's standards, without GoldenEye we would still be playing FPS games that play like Quake or Doom. GoldenEye had huge influence on FPS games and introduced stealth, realistic gameplay, damage based on where you're hit, and popularized local multiplayer deathmatch in FPS games. Anyways, in 2004, EA released GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which means that there are 2 GoldenEye games released on a console that released 9 years after the movie. I'm guessing EA just used the name GoldenEye to get the attention of people who would play the original N64 game. It also doesn't have a lot to do with GoldenEye, and lots of weapons aren't very spy-like a bunch of giant rocket launchers and laser guns. Anyways, the game is probably the closest to a modern FPS game that you can get on the DS. In the campaign, you can take people hostage, your health value replenishes, etc., etc. But like Metroid, I think where the game shines the most is in the multiplayer. I've only played single card play for multiplayer, which takes place on a very large map. The players spawn with a pistol, and guns slowly spawn on the ground after about a minute. You have 10 minutes to battle, whoever gets the most kills wins. A classic deathmatch mode. You're given lots of guns to play with. There are guns that you can find in lots of places, like the P90, but you can go to more dangerous spots where you're out in the open and you get guns like the Mamba shotgun, a giant laser gun that's a combination of the Wonderwall from Call of Duty Zombies and the Op from CSGO, a giant rocket launcher, and more. The game also lets you dual-wield weapons, but that means that you can't aim down sights like Akimbo from Modern Warfare. One of my favorite things about the multiplayer is that it fully ports all the maps, guns, and elements from Rogue Agent on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. It even has boss that you can play against. This game didn't receive a lot of attention on the DS when it released, and that really saddens me, because it means a lot of hard work from the devs to completely port GoldenEye Rogue Agent on the DS went to waste. Hey everyone, that was the top 5 FPS games on Nintendo DS. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to show your support, because these videos are difficult to make. Also, before I go, I'd like to apologize for my upload schedule. I was gone for about 3 weeks hiking in the Rocky Mountains with my Boy Scout troop, and when I got back, it was really difficult to get back into the loop of making videos. But thankfully, I'm back, so expect lots of videos in the near future, and as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.